I will say, like, I'm a big believer of AGI, and AGI is coming, and I think it's gonna be faster than everyone expects. But I can't imagine what the world will looks like once that we have like amazing AGI, because that's gonna change dynamics a lot.
This is an interview with João Moura, the founder of Crew AI, which is a super popular AI agent framework. There aren't many people who know more about agents than João. We talked about the future of agents, what mistakes beginners make, and why now is the perfect time to start building them. If you believe that agents are the future, just like I do, then make sure to listen until the end, because you're gonna learn so much. What type of agent would you say someone who is new to this should build first?
I wouldn't advise starting with the agent. I would say start with the process, right? So, like, what you're trying to automate. I made a post about this on X the other day, and I think that the way that people, like, when people think about AI agents, the word AI agents might be a little like intimidating,
Yeah.
right? Because it has AI on it and like agents, what does that mean? So what I would encourage people to do is instead of thinking about AI agents, think about automations, regular automations, the ones that you really love. Now you can basically do way more complex automations because you're basically adding two new things into the mix. One is the obvious one, the ability to generate content, right? So you can say, write me an email and it will do it, or write me a poem or whatever it might be. But the second thing is the most interesting one is that you're giving it like the ability to have some cognition, right? So you can choose, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I use this tool? Should I search online? Should I scrape this website or not? And what that means is that basically where before you needed to hook up all this if and else's to make sure that an automation works, now you don't need to do it and it can react to data in real time. So instead of start thinking about agents, start thinking about automations and things that you want to automate, and then you go into the agents. That would be my advice.
So look at all the small stuff you're doing every day, all the repetitive stuff, and start thinking like what is the easiest to automate and start there.
Exactly. For me, it was a lot of like, what are the things that I really want to do? Like, I want the outcome of doing it, but I can't prioritize because I don't have the time. That's how I started. And for me, that was posting on LinkedIn. That was my first like career
Yeah.
agent. I was like, I want to post on LinkedIn because I want the recognition. I want to create opportunities. I want all that, but I can't prioritize it because crafting a LinkedIn post it takes longer than shit posting on Twitter, right?
Yeah,
Because that's so
definitely.
fast. So that was my first like three or four agents were around like automating LinkedIn posting.
Yeah, I think a lot of people fall into the trap of like trying to do something huge right away and then they like, oh, but the agents can't do it. Well, just like, start small, start with something super easy to automate and like build up one step at a time.
Exactly. And the other thing as well is like people usually jump straight into like, hey, let me build the agents for this. The thing that works best for me is first I do it manually, right? So, for example, creating the LinkedIn post, first thing I did was kind of like, let me try to create a LinkedIn post myself. So I did the research, I took the notes, I look at what other people were talking. But while I was doing that, I was mapping out the process, right? What is the process that I do when I want to create a good LinkedIn post? So researching other profiles, looking up online for like material on it, thinking about my past experiences and all that. So once that you mapped out the process, it becomes easier to translate that into like an AI agent or multiple AI agents because you kind of like understand how it should work.
Okay, so from what you just said, I take away like two main things, and that is like you need to have some level of understanding of what you actually want the agents to do, because a lot of people just want the agents to do something they don't even know how to do themselves, and that's like super hard. And the number two, as you know, every agent engineers know, break it into smaller steps. So even though if it's already a small step, just break it down further and that's much easier to build with agents.
Exactly. I think that's the other thing. You got a great point there. Like breaking it up into smaller steps makes such a difference because LLMs can get confused, right? LLMs are
Hmm.
great, but you have a limited context window. They can get confused with like needle in the haystack, where like if there's an information in the middle, they kind of lose track of it. So what you want to do is like if you can break into a more like smaller chunks, that's better. And then you're gonna find that the combination of like many smaller steps makes a great outcome, because then you have these agents kind of bouncing off each other and checking each other off, and that tends to produce better outcomes than trying one single agent that has a lot of tools and then like don't use them and kind of like get lost in there.
Yeah, I think that comes back to like prompt engineering. Like to build great agents, you have to have some level of understanding in prompt engineering, and a lot of people kind of want to skip that step and just jump right into agents and don't want to write the prompts.
Yeah, we try to make that easier on Crew AI. So if you notice, a lot of like the design choices that I have made in Crew AI early on were around kind of like, how do I make it easier for people that don't know what good prompting is to kind of create them? So even the way that you define a task, you would say like, all right, this is the task description, so what I wanted to do. And then I force you to say what is the expected output.
Yeah.
So people would just like write a lame description for a task and like them wouldn't like give good results. But what they're missing is like, hey, you need to be descriptive, or you need to be clear about what you expect to get out of it. And it's funny because what I keep finding out is that there's a great correlation between managers and creating good AI agents. Because I think managers are kind of like more used to both thinking about who should I hire to do this, and then two, like if I have to delegate this task to someone, how do I like be super descriptive on like what I actually expect as an output? So I think those two things kind of like make a huge difference there.
So basically think like a manager.
Yeah, there you go. Think like a manager. Like think like you're actually having someone to do this. Who would this person be? And then like if it's a junior person, you don't like it like going off the rails. You want to be very descriptive about what you want them to do. So you could do that.
Now you're probably thinking, okay, David, I know that agents are going to change the world and I want to learn how to build them. I'm just not sure where to start. Well, that's exactly why I built an entire 6-module workshop on how to build and deploy AI agents, which is now available inside of my community. So if you want to take part in building the future, then make sure to join. It's the first link in the description. I mean, people still overestimate, what agents can do, and they're like everything has to be super clear and described, because if you leave something ambiguous or vague, like it's just inviting randomness, and if you have multiple agents over time, that can cause trouble,
Yeah, 100%. I think there's something beautiful about having multiple agents working together, that they can basically they can do a lot of like harm in terms of like they can make things worse, but they can also make things way better.
Yeah.
So in a similar way that like if you're chatting with GPT and like you ask to do something and you don't like it, then you ask it like to change a few things, and then it gets better, and then after like 3 or 4 messages kind of like clicks and like, all right, this like I like this can happen with multiple agents too if you like do them right. But yeah, if you don't think about it too much, then you're just introducing more randomness and more hallucination to the whole process.
Yeah, from my experience, I think building teams with multiple agents is like taking one step back and two steps forward, because I see a lot of people just, say like, oh, my agents couldn't be able to do task X, but when I gave it to ChatGPT, it could do it. And, that's just like the level 1 agents. Like, if you really work on it and build a solid team, it will be able to do more stuff than just ChatGPT. So I think the, one step back, 2 steps forward analogy is like perfect for multi-team agents.
100%. And that's something that we have been noticing, is that like you have a bunch of like specific agents out there, right? Like there are people building like agents for specific verticals. Like, hey, I want an agent for sales or something, or marketing and all that. But the cool thing about building a platform, and that's what we are doing, where you can basically build any agents that you want, is that unlocks for all those like custom use cases, right? Like, oh, I have like this internal process that is very specific to my company or to my vertical or to my business, and I want to make sure that I figure it out. So that has been a lot of interesting, because you're right. Like if you put those agents together in the right way, they can achieve actually great stuff.
Earlier, you said that one of your goals is to make building agents easier for everybody, which is similar to what Jensen Huang said in one of his keynotes recently, that AI and agents should be democratized so that everybody can build them. I want to ask, like, this is a question from Scott, one of my community members. What is the approach you're taking at Crew AI? Is it to target more of engineers and tech savvy people, or do you want to eventually target everybody?
That's a good question. So right now, I think Crew AI struck a chord because we made it so simple for people to build these AI agents that we have people that have never coded before that we're actually now putting together agents by
Yeah.
using like ChatGPT. And there's something magical about that. And I do think that agents should be accessible. Since then, what we notice is that people that are doing like a lot of great scenarios is like people that have already some engineering skills and that kind of make it easier for them to create custom tools and API integrations and all that. So we kind of like have been building the library towards like how we can still support those simple cases, but then adding a layer that if people want to build more complex stuff, they can. I think probably sometime soon, because we're already working on it, we are gonna ship a UI, and that will probably address like people that don't know how to code. And like, hey, if you want to build a crew, like you don't even need to figure out coding. You can do on a UI, and then you can deploy that with a click of a button, and that's live, and you can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, I mean, the power of a user-friendly UI is really cannot be understated. Like, people don't realize that ChatGPT blew up because of the UI. Like, GPT-3 already existed since 2020. So, like, 2.5 years it existed. It was available through the OpenAI platform, but, nobody used it because it was not a user-friendly UI. But, like, Sam was honestly like the only person at OpenAI who was pushing for this. Everybody else wanted to keep doing research, but he was right. And once they added a user interface that's like super and easy to use, then it just blew up.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I think people do understand the power of a good UI, and honestly, that can go pretty far. So I think we're gonna ship a UI that's already in the works. It's just a matter of time. We have a lot of things in the roadmap, but I want to do it. So in the end of the day, you do want to support like everyone out there, right? Right now, it's definitely more geared and friendly towards engineers because engineers will know how to put the custom tools together. They already understand Python and all that. And our documentation is kind of human, so we don't spend too much time teaching like Python or boilerplate code into the docs. But I think with the UI, we're gonna kind of like scratch that itch where like anyone can kind of like give this one a try.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I actually think that the UI might be like the biggest thing missing from truly unlocking agents to mass adoption. Do you think it's that, or do you think it's something else? Like, do you think we need better LLMs or maybe better memory? What do you think is preventing agents to going super mainstream?
I think it's a combination of factors, but honestly, I think the biggest one is education. Honestly, like everyone is talking about AI agents, it's similar to LLMs, right? Even if you look at LLMs or ChatGPT, at our little bubble, it feels like everyone is doing it.
Yeah.
But if you zoom out a little bit, you realize there's like 100 people talking about it. For those 100 people, maybe 50 have actually read something about it. Then those 50, maybe 15 has actually used it. Then 5 are building with it, and then 2 are deploying in production. So I think like that's like similar to like AI agents, right? Like a lot of people are talking about it, and the people that are like adventuring there and trying, they're like grabbing great experiences and like, oh, all right, this works. I like this. I want more of it. But I think a lot of people are still not like educated, or they don't have the time, or they're busy with like regular day to day in order to pay too much attention into AI agents right now. So I think that is a company that is missing, but we're gonna get there. The one thing that is clear to me is that this genie is not getting back into the bottle, right? It's not like
Yeah.
people are gonna stop using agents in the future. No, no. If anything, they're just gonna use more and more. So I think we're gonna get to like mass adoption eventually, but I think the things that we miss the most now is, yes, if we could have an amazing UI, that would be great. If you had amazing models, that would be even greater. But if people are not educated, like, hey, this actually could be great, they're just not gonna try it out.
So, I mean, this feels to me like a similar problem with, blockchain and Bitcoin. Like, the technology is there, but not everybody knows it and kind of understands the implications of it and how powerful it can be.
I think you got that nail in the head, because if you think about blockchain, it's similar in the concept that it's a complex technology for non-technical people. So people try to make it friendlier using like a UI and all that. You have a few people that are very excited about it and building business around it, but at the same time, it doesn't get mass adoption. Like your parents, your grandparents are not using it. Yeah, and it has been kind of like a long run. Um, I think it adds a layer of complexity because Bitcoin will is kind of investing in money, and that can throw people off or rub them in a different way a little bit. But I think you got the nail in the red. I think that's a great comparison, actually.
I mean, the argument people would make against AI agents would be like, well, it's going to take our jobs. Like that's like the obvious, argument. So like, why build agents? You're just going to replace yourself. Like, what do you say to those people?
I would say, honestly, I would say a few things. First thing, we don't like to admit, but we have very, very little control over our future, right?
Yeah,
I
it's a fascinating idea.
I can't change the future. We like to believe that we have a lot of control, but we don't. So think about the levers that you have, right? What are the tools at your disposal? What you can actually influence here? Uh, and if you think about AI, like you can change the fact if it's going to take your job or not. That is not up to you. That's a market move. That's a world movement. Like
Yeah,
you don't have control over it. But you have control over a few things. Like if that happens, we'll be better off by learning these tools early on, or we'll be better off like not thinking about them. I think you're going to be better off if you learn everything that you can about them so
definitely.
that you can then become an expert on it. And by the time it tries to take your job, there's space for you in the market still. So I would say don't worry too much about the things that you can control, but think about the things that you have at your disposal, like the levers that you can pull and what is going to set yourself to a better future. So I would say for anyone that is betting against AI agents because they're going to take their job, I think if you don't give them a try, they just might.
I want to touch on the idea that we have way less control over the future than people realize, and I think this is actually a super fascinating concept. That like if you think about it, AI probably always would end up existing. I mean, obviously we cannot predict like the order in which technologies come, right? Like nobody could predict like I don't know when computers would exist exactly, but like the improvement in technology is always happening. So once people get over that belief and like technology is always improving, all of the things that right now seem like science fiction will exist, whether that's 5, 15, 50 years from now, it doesn't really matter. That's almost a detail. I mean, do you agree that we have like basically like how do you think about the concept of like how much control we have over technology? Do you think it's just something that's guiding us almost than we are guiding it?
So I love physics. And I can give you a physical like explanation on how I think about this. Given that the universe is infinite and you have an infinite amount of particles over it, if you give it enough time, anything can happen. So it's
Yeah,
just like atoms structure in a different way. So I think everything that I won't say everything that can happen will happen, but everything that can happen will probably happen. So I think yes, I think knowing how we evolved as human beings and the fact that we keep striving for technical advances, I think AI would happen in any universe that I can think of where we exist as we do today. And I honestly think that AI is not going back. Like I
no
don't
way.
even entertain that as an option. Like that's like there's no way that's gonna happen. There's just like too many incentives, right? Like, and it's not only financial. We're talking about health incentives. We're talking about speed. We're talking about improvement. We're talking about quality of life. We're talking about so many incentives and so many fronts that this genie is not going back in the bottom. Like, there's no way. Um, so yeah, I think AI would happen no matter what, assuming similar conditions.
I mean, it's still crazy how many people are trying to fight the inevitable. It's like every day I see so many people thinking like, "Oh, why learn this when AGI is coming? Or why would you, learn Python, programming, prompt engineering, building agents? Like AGI will do all of that." It's like I do not understand that pessimistic mindset of like it's to me it's like obvious when you know something, when you have a certain skill, you're going to be better off than if you didn't have it. Like there is no way you're going to be worse off by doing more and learning more. It's crazy.
Exactly. Like what are you losing by learning something? Like, I mean, I could see an argument where someone would say like, well, I don't want to learn this, so I'm going to learn something else. So I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. But what I found is like most of the people that make those claims, they just
Yeah.
don't want to do anything. They're like, all right, so I'm gonna sit back and relax because there is no point. And by then you're like you start wondering like, what are you doing with your life? I mean, relax is good. Don't take me wrong. I'm all about like relaxing, having a good time, spending time with family and all that. But I also feel like, at least for me and my personality, if I'm not learning something, I I just like I lose joy.
Yeah. I mean, it's the nature principle, like what isn't growing is dying, right?
Yeah, and if you think about it, it's the way that like evolution works as well, right? We as human beings, like we're talking about this just like a while ago, but as human beings, like we have grown and evolved into creatures that are explorers. We're learners. Like that's how we survived like to different evolution scenarios. So it's kind of like baked into us in our DNA to kind of like being like drawn to experiencing and kind of learning and trying things.
Yeah, I mean, that's like probably our biggest superpower, the ability to adapt. So, I mean, people kind of forget, how we got to this point. Like, we are the best adapting animal out of them all. So, I mean, I think that alone should give people some, hope and confidence.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Okay, so we touched on AGI a bit. Do you have any like idea or like specific steps you would tell somebody to do that wants to prepare for AGI? Or like, what would you say to somebody who wants to really be ready for when that comes?
I will say, like, I'm a big believer of AGI, and AGI is coming, and I think it's going to be faster than everyone expects. But well, not everyone by now, because a bunch of people are also like optimistic about it. But I can imagine what the world will looks like once that we have like amazing AGI, because that's going to change dynamics a lot, right? If you have something that can do most of humans' works better than humans, that screw up economics a little bit, and
Yeah,
especially if it was like if there's a cheaper. So
and faster. Yeah.
um, I honestly like I can even think about like what that will mean for like the average person on Earth. I think it's gonna be a very interesting moment, I guess. But what I would say for people to prepare for it is again, like what are we talking about? Like if you the most familiar you become with these tools, the better off you will be. Because if you think about like the workforce in the future, what like jobs will look like and all that, knowing that we're gonna be using AI more and more, again, like it just helps that you know about it, that you can use these tools, that you can deploy them. So yeah, like maybe like in the future, in the long term future, like programming won't be as valuable because AI will do everything for us. But understanding the programming concepts, being able to explain it, like that's still value on that. And I think that's going to be around for a long time. Also, like I think like we like usually our work life is like 40 years, maybe more, maybe 50 or 60 if people work like very long time. So I would say like you need to think about it. Like in 60 years, like people are gonna still be necessary even if like AGI comes along. So I think that I think people need to like keep learning about AI in general. I think that's the thing that would make the most like sense. It's what I would say to like my children. Like, hey, learn about AI.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. So you said that it's coming, AGI is coming faster than people expect. So I have to ask, what is your best guess or timeline?
My best guess, 5 years, I would say.
2029.
Very optimistic. Yeah.
So same as Raker as
I
well.
think because like if you watch it like the NVIDIA like presentation the other day, right?
Yeah.
Those new chips, that's a huge improvement. And then the word simulations for training sets and all that, like pieces are coming together, right? I think it's not just I understand that people don't agree on how we're gonna get to AGI, right? People are not sure if like um if if uh if LLMs are kind of like the way that we're gonna get there, or if there's something else. If AI agents, multimodal is the way that we're gonna get there, or something else. But I like the way that like OpenAI defines AGI, and there's like an AI that can be better than most humans that like they're like whatever they asked to do. I think that is coming in less than 5 years. Yes.
Okay, so your definition is better than human at most things.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact wording from OpenAI, but I like their definition. I think there's something like that. Like it's better than most of the humans at most of the tasks, or something like that.
Okay, so the OpenAI
That would
definition.
be my current definition. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you mentioned the GPUs, and what people don't realize is that all of the state-of-the-art technology, I mean, I guess except Claude and the newer ones, but like, GPT-4 and stuff like that, all of these were trained on A100s. And that's like 2 generation old GPUs. So even if nothing changed and we just used the, Blackwells, the best GPUs we have, like, imagine what we can build with that, right?
Exactly. I think that people don't realize that. Like, hey, like these tools that we're playing with and that we're so excited about, they're deployed, they're in production right now, but they're built like a couple years ago. Like a lot has changed, especially recently with like all the interest on AI. So yeah, you're on point. Whatever ships next is gonna be big, and it's only gonna get bigger from here on. So yeah, I'm very curious about that. I also like the ability for kind of like these LLMs to learn from like themselves. Another thing, right? A lot of people start talking about synthetic data sets. I think that's gonna also unlock a lot of possibilities out there. And you have like the folks from AlphaGo showcasing how that can be done as well. So that's another great example that I think will play a role in here. And also like whatever Q star is, like we still
Yeah.
don't know, but everyone's so hyped about it.
Yeah, so I mean, there is like speculation it's something with math and improved reasoning, but obviously we don't have any details. And especially if you saw that clip from the Lex Friedman podcast where Sam was asked the question and he was like, we cannot share anything about that, like super quickly, like such a suspicious way to answer that is, made people
Yeah.
even more interested.
I wonder how much of that is kind of like generating hype and how much of that is actually like, oh
Maybe.
no, I can't talk about that. I don't know. I knowing like not knowing, but like have seen like after seeing Sam do like its things, I think it's not hype. I think it's something big.
So why then is he waiting to release the next thing? Because like Claude 3 is stealing so much API credits from GPT-4.
Right? I think like now the ball is on their court. Like it's like there's the pressure is on with the new Claude model. Kind of like now they gotta ship something because like people are really like start to like, hey, there's not only OpenAI out there, there are other alternatives. So I don't know. I think they're gonna ship something faster, um, or at least sooner than later.
So the next generation of LLMs, GPT-5, Claude 4, whatever they're called, how do you think they will impact agents specifically?
Oh, dude, it's gonna be huge, honestly. Like what I'm able to pull off with GPT-4 right now already amazes me. Honestly, I believe that if you spend enough time with it, there's almost close to nothing that I wouldn't be able to automate uh using GPT-4 and Crew AI right now. Of course, that more complex use cases would require more work and integrations and all that. But like I'm at that stage where like anything that like any automation that you throw at me, I believe that I could pull it off with GPT-4 and Crew AI. It's just a matter of like the effort, how much you think about the problem, the custom tools and all that. But then you're thinking about a better model. Dude, that's gonna be killer. I think it's gonna make like so much faster, easier, and more accurate that I think with AI agents, you're gonna be able to get amazing results that will outperform a lot of people that would actually have to do that job.
Yeah. I mean, it's so wild seeing people like hate on GPT-4 and saying it's not really capable, but then completely forgetting that Devin also uses GPT-4. Like, you know.
Dude, and like and I would say like ChatGPT sometimes like struggles. Yes, I can see that. Sometimes there are some problems with it, but the GPT-4 model, the expensive one, like that, that shit's the real deal. Like, it's still pretty damn good. And again, goes back to like prompt engineering, goes back to hooking things up in the right way, goes back to providing the right tools. But if you spend some time with it, yeah, it works great. It's a tool, right? It's not at the point where the thing is so good that you can just do kind of like a poor job and you still get a great outcome. You need to put in some work in there to get like those
Yeah.
great outcomes.
So, what do you think is like the three biggest differences between beginners who don't get any great outcomes and expert agent builders who can, automate anything?
Mm, that's a great question. So I think beginners, one, they they don't understand how LLMs work, right? So they
Yeah.
don't understand like they don't need to understand like technically like how to train an LLM and all that. But it would be great if like people understood more about like what is this AI model trying to do? And the fact that it's just trying to predict the next token. So it's basically kind of like, hey, given all the information that I got so far, what is the most likely token to come next after this? I think just understanding that kind of like already kind of like starts to frame your brain to like, all right, how I can like write this out in a way that makes sense for it to kind of like complete from here on, and it's like something that makes sense, right? So how I influence the probability of the next tokens being exactly what I need them to be. So I think that's the one thing, like you just like a high level understanding of how the systems works. That would be a good one. Prompt engineering is another one for sure. So this ability to kind of like, hey, how do I write prompts and like what is few shots, what is one shot, and like what is like chain of thought and all that, because that might help you in writing like your prompt and all that. Um, I guess other things more specific to AI agents is some of the stuff that we talked earlier around like, hey, uh, like what are the agents that I actually like, what are the agents that I need? If I had to recruit someone to do this job for me, what would be their roles? What would be their goals? What would be their backstory and all that? So kind of like understanding that frame of mind when you're picking agents, because role playing right now when you're talking about LLMs can make or break a lot of the use cases. They can like become like they can give way better outcomes if they're role playing the right way.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say also that. Um, and then one that you mentioned actually that I think is a pretty big one is like breaking things into smaller pieces, smaller chunks, wins right now on AI agents and LLMs.
Yeah. And I also think people need to think more long term, whether that's still like kind of short term. But like what I mean by that is that people would like see some task that takes 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and they're like, I could build some agents for this, but it's just 20 seconds, just 30 seconds. And building the agents might take 3, 4, or 5 hours, depending on what the task is. Now, if you think long term enough, it's a no-brainer to automate even the smallest task and get that leverage, get that saving in terms of time and mental effort. But a lot of people are so like short-term focused. It's like it only takes 2 minutes. I'll just do it. No point building a team of agents for that.
Yes, I think that's great actually. And yeah, and I have been found guilty of that where I would say, oh, this is just 30 minutes, so I'm not gonna do a crew for it. But then like after I do it like 3 or 4 times, I'm like, all right, and then I do a crew for it, and I'm so thankful that I did it. Because it's not only like those 30 minutes, it also is like the mental space that goes
Absolutely.
away. Like you don't need to think about that anymore. Like that can be done. It's just like a command line. And then also like it kind of like results a little more standard, right? So you're like, all right, I have more standard results now. It's like more kind of like always following the same format I expect or something like that. So that has been a lot of fun. But I agree with you. Thinking about those, like seeing more opportunities for automation, realizing that there's compound returns on building these AI agents.
Absolutely. So where do you see Crew AI 5 years from now?
5 years from now, where do I see AI 5 years from now? That's a great question. I gotta say, I think like what I would love to is to create AI to become de facto platform for people to build AI agents. And I mean that. I mean the de facto way for you to build them, for you to deploy them, for you to test them, for you to kind of like it's kind of like convention, right? So where you can build around and you can deploy things and that just works, so you don't have to worry about it. So I think that would be like a great place to be, where Create AI is just like supporting a lot of different use cases, and people can trust that if they follow this format, things will just work.
Sounds good. And how big is your team? Is it just you, or do you have some people helping you out?
Now we have some people. We are four right now,
Okay.
and we might make a fifth hire sooner than later. So right now it's four of us. It's me, two other engineers, and a community manager that has been helping with a lot of support and Discord and everything.
And did you bootstrap the company, or did you take any investment?
So we haven't said anything public about this, but I bootstrapped it for the most of it. We did talk with investors, and we did a few things, but we're gonna share it more broadly soon. Once that we have like other news to share as well. But yeah, so far like has been just like very intense, a lot of work. I'm so grateful that I get to have people to work on this with me because it has been tiring.
Yeah. There's this quote like, if you want to, I don't know exactly, but basically, if you want to do something, go solo. If you want to go far, go with a team. I'm completely butchering it, but I think you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I agree with you. Honestly, I always think about in the term of like I would rather own a smaller percentage of something than 100% of nothing. Like
Yeah.
another way that I usually put it. Like yeah, let's like share and go on this together. So yeah, we started as bootstrap, but we did talk with customers and we did raise around. We just haven't shared
Okay.
broadly yet.
It's fair. And if you could have like one person as your dream investor or advisor, who would it be?
If I could have one person as investor advisor, who would this person be?
Like one dream person that, maybe you right now you don't have connections to or some other reason.
Mm. I gotta say, I'm pretty proud of the advisors that we have. There's one person that I tried to get, and I got a clue. I wouldn't say close, but it was like was closer than what I thought, and that was Sam.
Wow.
So I got closer than what I thought that I would be able to, but it seems that he's pretty focused on OpenAI only nowadays. But I'm very proud of like the advisors that we did manage to get.
I mean, he has like 400 companies in his personal portfolio, so 401, why not?
Yeah, honestly, it seems like it seems that the portfolio is kind of like a family thing and all that. So yeah, I think he's not like as involved right now as he used to. But the rest of the family still is, I guess.
I saw you tweeted a message from Dharmesh, the founder and CTO of Hotspot. So I have to ask, what's your relationship with him like?
So Dharmesh is actually one of our advisors. We are very excited and happy to have him. So I met Dharmesh on my last company, Clearbit. Clearbit got acquired by HubSpot
Mm-hmm.
back in December, and I got to briefly join HubSpot before I jumped out to do Create AI. And during that, I met Dharmesh and we talked a little bit about AI agents, and we seem to see eye to eye a lot on how AI agents are going to be useful in the future and all that. So when I told him that I was building Create AI, he was eager to join and say like, "Hey, yes, let's build this."
Yeah, I mean, the way he set up his position at HubSpot is so cool. Like, he has, I think, only one direct report or something, and he's like doing all kinds of cool stuff that he wants to work on, and just such a cool way to have like a position at such a big company.
Exactly. That's the dream CTO role, right?
Yeah,
Like where you have all these special projects and you pull people from different teams as you need them. Like, hey, come work with me on this and all that. A few companies have tried to formalize this a little bit more. GitHub used to have the CTO's office, I think it's what they call it. So it's basically like a small tiger team that can like work on this like special initiatives or anything. But yeah, Dharmesh, honestly, he's such a value add. One, the guy is super friendly. He's great to talk to. Um, Two, huge believer on AI. Three, has built an amazing company. I think they just shared their last quarter results like this week, and like they're you're incredible. The company is growing at an amazing rate. So kudos to him and for a whole like executive team at HubSpot. And honestly, like the guy is truly a believer in AI agents. And I think AI agents, marketing and sales have such a nice crossover that I think that it would be very interesting to have him on board all this.
Before you said that, the founders of great companies usually don't own the whole pie or even the majority. And I think Dharmesh is like 3.6% of HubSpot or something like that. So it goes to show that you can still be super successful. He's a billionaire while still having less than 10% or less than 5% of a company. And like so many founders, especially at the start, are like so reluctant to give up any percentage.
Exactly. I think like honestly, you gotta think about our priorities and the games that you're playing. Like once that you start raising money and once you start thinking about like how I want this company to shape up. But I do believe that you gotta give up on something, right? Like you could have 100% and the thing will be worth nothing, or you could give up a little bit and in the end it's going to be worth it more. So it's a balancing act. There's definitely people that do the opposite where they give too much away too fast.
Yeah.
But I would say that there's more people that do the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, this comes back to like being good at selecting talent, because if you have somebody who's really like 10 out of 10 person that you want to keep that person, even if that means like having less percentage. But like I think the trap where people give too much is that they are not good judges of character and they think somebody is exceptional, and when they're not, and then they give up way too much and they have to like restructure the company, which is super painful. And
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, it's hard, right? You gotta feel like you gotta follow your gut sometimes, right?
Yeah.
I had tough situations where like you can like sit down with a person, you can interview them, you like them, they pass on the technical interview, they feel like a good match, you're ready to make them an offer, and then they schedule like a last minute call when they have like a few questions. And then some of those questions just sound like
Yeah.
yellow flags. Like, maybe this is not the right fit. But you have spent a lot of time on this. You have done like pairing sessions. You have done screening calls. You like spend a lot of hours. So you want to close them because you want to like go back into building or you want to do something else. But I would advise go with your gut. Where if it feels wrong, pull the brakes. Say like, all right, we're not doing this. We're gonna like go with someone else. It doesn't feel like the right fit or something. Yeah, I would definitely advise people that are building businesses or hiring or managers to really think through about the people they are hiring, because that makes such a difference for a company.
This reminds me of Gary Vee saying, hire fast, fire faster. Like if somebody is mediocre and underperforming, like you're not doing anybody a favor by keeping that person at the company.
100%, 100%. I would say hire fast, fire faster makes sense. The only thing that I would say about the hiring is that be conscious about the people that you're like. Be conscious about the people that you're hiring. Like if you can, like make your process as informing as possible for you and the other person, so that by the time you get the offer, like you can offset as much risk as you can. Because it also sucks for the other person, right? Like if like they leave their other job and they join just to be fired later, like that sucks. So you gotta be responsible about it. But I do agree that if it's not working, hey, like you need to let them go. Like there's no other way.
I agree. So you earlier mentioned that you worked for HubSpot a bit and then you decided to commit to Crew AI. What was the time period between when you started Crew AI, first commit on GitHub, and when it actually started taking off, and then when you went all in?
Yeah, so I started Crew AI. I started developing Crew AI back in September locally. I think my first GitHub push was around October. I know because I was traveling. It was my wedding anniversary. And what I would do is I would wake up earlier than my wife. So while she was asleep, And we were traveling, by the way. We were like traveling to celebrate and all that. But I would wake up super early. So while she was at least asleep, I was coding, and kind of like doing like Creo AI. And when she woke up, I already had put like a few hours in doing some work, and then we'd like go off to like travel things, having lunch and whatever. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Then after October, the things start taking off in December. In January, we saw a huge boom, and then we kept growing after that on a pretty steady pace, where like more people is using it, more people is downloading, and more crews are executed every day. Nowadays, there's not a single day that comes by where we don't have at least 10,000 crews executed.
Wow.
Um, and some weeks we got up to like 1.4 million crews executed, with days going over like 370,000 crews executed. So
It's crazy.
has been a lot of fun.
And like, when you compare those numbers to ChatGPT, it still shows like how much potential there is. Like, even how crazy those numbers sound, like it can be 10, 100 times more.
Exactly. And now it's like how we get there, right? Like how we make it easier for people to use this, how we make it better for people to get better outcomes out of it, and how we make it easier for people to bring those things into production. And that's what Career AI Plus is. And a lot of the effort that we have been putting on right now with part of the team is also helping build that out. Where Cray AI Plus is now actually your first like enterprise offering, where people can sign up and they basically can write their crews like exactly how you would. You write them, you run them in the terminal, they work, and now you go into Cray AI Plus and you turn them into APIs in seconds. You just select the crew that you develop, you click on deploy, that creates a private VPC, private server, everything for you. And now it automatically understand what arguments you need to send to this like crew, and gives you an endpoint that you can call, and now you can integrate that crew to your app, to your like mobile app, to your Next.js app, or to your backend or whatever it might be. And we're adding way more features in there. We're adding like fully flashed dashboards. We're gonna be adding the UI that is gonna also be free tier so people can use it. We're gonna be adding like automatically fine tuning. And there's like so much that we're doing that it's gonna be super fun.
Yeah, thanks for the sneak peeks. I'm sure people will be excited for that.
Yeah, I gotta say it has been fun. Like we're doing some final tests before engaging people, but we are already talking with early customers, and so far feedback has been amazing.
I'm glad to hear that. Now, what was the original idea? Like, what made you even consider building a agent framework?
So all goes back to my wife again. So I was working at Clearbin, and I started doing AI in 2017. Back then, I was not messing with text generation. I was doing regular classification and just prediction models. And I joined Clearbit to build a team to build a platform for enterprise. So people could use the Clearbits product on bigger companies and enterprise instead of APIs. So I hired this team and we start building on this. And a few years pass, and now OpenGPT takes the world by the storm. So we decided we need to re-implement a lot of our inner systems with LLMs. And because I had AI experience, they were like, "Hey, can you help us do it?" So I took the lead of this new like team to kind of like help us rebuild things with LLMs, and I had a lot of fun. And we did some pretty advanced stuff at a scale that not a lot of people are doing. Like we had over like 800 million records that we had to run
Wow.
over some sort of AI, either like embeddings or LLMs or whatever it might be. So it was a pretty big scale and a lot of interesting challenges. So my wife got back to me and said like, "Hey, you're doing all this interesting stuff. You should be sharing more about it online, and you should be sharing on LinkedIn." And the problem is that was I so busy building that I didn't have the time to share on LinkedIn. And I was like, well, maybe I should build some agents to do it for me. And that's the first agents that I built. I look at AutoGem and I tried to do it and didn't work. I found it super complex. I got myself struggling understanding like user proxy manager or whatever,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
was like, what is this? Then I looked at chat dev, and I was like, all right, I like chat dev, I like the concept, I like the role playing, but again, feels like less something that you would deploy and more like a scientific paper, something that you run locally or something. I was like, all right, I need something else. So then I go on and build Create AI, and uh, I basically first build the agents. They work. I love it. I get hooked, and I say I want to build more agents. So I say, all right, let me extract the common pieces from this into a framework so that I can build more agents. And that's how Create AI came to be.
I mean, that's the same story as some of the biggest companies in the world. Just solve a problem you have yourself and, make that available for others.
Yeah, I think what was cool for me was that I I first just built the agents. And then I was like, all right, now I want to build more. And then extracting out these pieces was a very interesting process, like understanding what made these agents great so that I could abstract that into a framework.
So, last question. Do you think all of us will eventually have dozens of agents, multiple teams of agents working for us, 24/7 doing
Hell
everything for us? And if so, I
yeah.
mean, I expected you to say yes. How far do you think that future is?
Not too far, honestly. If you think about it, we kind of already have but it just sucks because it right now it's Alexa, Siri, and all that.
Yeah,
It kind of works, kind of not. But as soon as like those new devices with embedded models start shipping in, and Apple is gonna do it, everyone's gonna do it. Like then, it's like Rabbit M1. Like
yeah,
you're gonna have a bunch of agents doing a bunch of stuff for you anyway. And I think in the workplace, you're going to have full departments that are run by AI agents.
I agree. I mean, it's an exciting future to look forward to. So I want to thank you for taking the time. And, I think what you're doing at Korea is absolutely amazing. It's like making agents available to everybody is, I think that's the future. Agents are definitely going to blow up this year. And I mean, you definitely have the right idea.
I love that. I love that. Yes, I would say for our community, like keep feedback coming. Things have been busy, so sometimes I can be slow to respond. But we have a team. We're gonna probably grow this team as things grow as well. And we are working like nonstop on shipping new stuff. So if you have any feedback, if you have anything, let me know. And stay tuned for Create AI Plus. Right now it's kind of like closed beta, but we are gonna start engaging people sooner than later.
All right, sounds great.
All
All right,
right.
so thanks again and have a nice day.
David, thank you so much. This was great. And yeah, like if I can help with anything, just let me know. I'm always one master away. I watched one of your recent videos. I really liked them. I think that was pretty cool. What we are doing with like some creators is kind of like trying to partner with them and giving them access like to early like materials, early features, so they can write like things on it. So I might looking to give you Create AI Plus access if you want to try it out and see how it
Sure,
works.
definitely.
And then you can choose to do whatever you want with it.
So, what's your preferred way of communication? Is it email, Twitter?
I would say email and Twitter are probably the easiest ones to get me.
Okay,
Yeah, and then I'm gonna make sure to send you all this stuff like as soon as we have something that I can actually show you.
sounds good. I mean, my audience is super hooked into agents, so if you have
I
anything
love
cool,
it.
send it over.
We do. All right, David. Have a good one. It was great chatting.
Same. See ya.